Okay. Today's Daf Kuf Aleph Amid Kuf Aleph. We're going to start from a little bit after the Gemara. V'chi gazur rabbanim biznus v'nesuin loy gazer, and this is where we're up to. Biznus mi gazer rabbanim. I'm trying to see where you can see it on your daf. It's a little bit below the Toisvis Chad Mikamoy, about 5-6 lines below that. So I'm going to make the screen a little bigger and just discuss where we're at. We learned before an interesting statement from Shmuel. Shmuel said that right over here in the beginning, he said that if you have 10 Kahanim standing around, and they're standing around, and they're immoral Kahanim. So one of the Kahanim went, and one of the Kahanim, hold on, just wait a second. Hi, Sheldon, we just began.
Hi, thank you. Okay, great.
Okay, so we're just discussing over here. The Shmuel said over here that you have 10 Kahanim standing around, and one of them, the immoral Kahanim, and one of them walks off and has relations with a lady, and that lady subsequently has a child, right? So you know that child is a kohen because there was only 10 Kahanim around. It's one of the that has nus with her. So the Gemara Shmuel said that kohen, that child, cannot serve in the Beis HaMikdash. Why? He's a kohen, he's a Bashur kohen. The answer is because the pasuk says, a child to serve in the Beis HaMikdash as a kohen, he has to follow his father. And since you don't know exactly who his father is, therefore, he cannot serve in the Beis HaMikdash. And really, this was only a Gzeira D'Rabbanan. Rabbanan said that if you have a child born out of znus, right? So he doesn't know who his father is. That child should not serve in the Beis HaMikdash. But if the child was born from an accidental marriage, loy gazer Rabbanan, the Rabbanan didn't make it. As long as you know he's a kohen, he's not a psul, even though you don't know exactly who his father is, he could serve in the Beis HaMikdash. Now we're up to over here. If there was nus, did the rabbis make a gezerah that they can't serve in the Beis HaMikdash? What's now? We learned in our Mishnah about a woman whose husband, let's say she left. She didn't wait the 3 months after leaving one husband. Let's say we don't know exactly, but let's say the first husband dies. We're going to assume that. And then she goes ahead and marries somebody else, but didn't wait the 3 months. Now, both husbands are Kahanim. So the Mishnah says, yeah, it's fine. My achabala. What does it mean she didn't wait after her husband? That the first husband died. And she didn't wait till marry the second husband. She didn't wait the normal 3 months. And therefore, you don't know who's the father of the child. Let's see the end of the Mishnah. Who Einan Aleim? He has to shit shiva. This child has to shit shiva for his 2 fathers because he doesn't know who's his father, right? The Haim Einanim Olav, and they sit shiva for him, right? So they sit shiva for him because perhaps when we say Einan means they can't eat kachim, they have a din like a mourner. So because perhaps he's their child, or perhaps these people are his father. So Bishlam hu Einin Aleihem, we understand very well that he could sit shiva or he has aninus on them. Mishkach, how is that possible? If the first father died, how can he sit shiva over his first father? He's long dead. Mishkachas law, that is a possibility. How could a person sit shiva, not shiva, but sit avelus if his father died years ago? Well, Binesuin the Sheni, the first one, the second one, by the second marriage, the second husband died, fine. But Malikit at Somos the Kama. It's possible that he would have to sit shiva on the first father if they interned the bones. When they interned the bones and trying to move it to another location, that day the son has to sit shiva. So here he would have to sit shiva for the first husband, and that could be his father. That's the scenario that he would sit shiva for them. Both fathers sit shiva when he dies. How is that possible? Kama, the first guy, Hamisle, he died, right? The first husband died, and that's what gave his mother the license to marry somebody else. So what is our Mishnah talking about? Ella Begrusha, do you want to say that our Mishnah is talking about The first guy was a Kohen, divorced his wife, and she married another Kohen. Umay achabala, what does it mean? She left her husband. Acher get bala, after the giving a divorce from her first husband. Ema Sefer, let us see the end of the Mishnah. Who ein metamal hem, ein metamal loy. The Mishnah says that he cannot go to the Beis HaKvaris or bury them or attend their levaya. They can't attend his levaya because. So the Gemara explains: both fathers can't go attend his levaya, this kid's levaya. The chumrah, the chol chad v'chad, each of the fathers will say dilma lam berehi. Maybe it's not his son, and therefore he's not supposed to be metama. He's not supposed to go to the levaya because maybe this kid is not his son. Ella hu ein metama lehem. He can't attend their levayas because maybe he's a kohen, maybe it's his father. Amai, why would you say that? Bishlama l'sheni, for the second husband, the second father, right? The second guy, lo l'tama lo, you don't be metama to him because perhaps this second guy is his real father, is not his real father, so he cannot. And maybe his real father is the first guy. Ella l'rishain, but by the first guy, if he dies, l'tama lo mamanoshach, he should be able to attend his levaya no matter what. Why? Who, if he's the son of the first husband, shapiko matamale, then it's his father. Certainly he could be matama to him because it's his father. The bar basra, who, if he's the son of the second one, wait a second, how did the second one marry this woman? It's because she got a divorce from the first one. If a kohen marries a divorcee, the child is not a kohen, is a chalal. He could be matama to her. The chalal that it's talking about, that he's a chalal, and therefore he could be matama to his father. So what is the scenario of our Mishnah? We need a case where a woman left the first husband, he's still alive, and she married the second husband, right? And yet she didn't get a divorce from the first husband. How's that possible? We need both husbands to be alive. Elalav, our Mishnah is talking about biznus. There was no marriage here at all. So there's no get. She first slept with the first guy, didn't wait 3 months, and slept with somebody else. Umay achabala means not she left her husband. Achabayala, she left the person that she had an affair with. So that's what our Mishnah is talking about. Two kahanim, they had relations with one woman, and she didn't wait 3 months between having relations with one of the guys to have the relations with the other person. So he's a Safek Kohen. Okay, what would a Shmuel hold in this Safek Kohen? He can't serve in the Beis HaMikdash. But our Mishnah says, the our Mishnah says he could serve in the Beis HaMikdash. He should go up and serve on their appointment in that family. He goes up when both families go up to serve in the Beis HaMikdash. So this is a contradiction, a refutation of Shmuel's opinion. If someone is born out of Znus, a Kohen that's born out of Znus, and he doesn't know who his father is, can't serve in the Beis HaMikdash. Rab Shmai says Bima Enez. It's really talking about she was married to the first person, and she was a katan, and she was a katana, and with a katana they don't need get to absolve a marriage. All a katana needs to do, because she has a drabanan type of marriage. All she has to do is say, I don't like this guy, and then she could go ahead and marry somebody else, and that's what we're talking about over here. And therefore, when she went ahead and married the second guy, that child is not a challah because she didn't get a divorce from the first guy because she didn't need a divorce from the first guy, and this was a regular marriage she had with the first person. So the Gemara asks back. So you're telling me that our Mishnah is talking about a girl who's 11 years old who is married to somebody, and so we are concerned, and the Mishnah is concerned. Maybe she got pregnant with the first guy. So the Gemara says, Mima enes Mikel Yalda. Is it possible that she was a meme'enes? She walked out of the marriage and she's 11 years old and she had a baby. Well, it was taught this brisa. 3 women should when they have relations should block. They should block the ability to getting pregnant because it's very dangerous. A katana, if she's a young girl. Mu'uberes, if she's pregnant, a woman who's pregnant should not have relations. She should prevent herself from getting pregnant again. Umenika, and somebody who's nursing. Katana, we're afraid a katana should get pregnant. If a girl, 11 years old, gets pregnant, she can die. If she's pregnant already, if a woman is pregnant, we don't want her to have normal relations. Shematasa uber sandal, because maybe she's going to deform the child that she's carrying by fertilizing another egg within her. So we don't want that to happen. Meinika. If a nursing woman, we also allow them to not to destroy the sperm of the. Basically, that's what mishamshus b'moich means, to destroy the sperm of who she's mating with. Why? Because it's dangerous for her to get pregnant. Shematig moles benoviyamas. Because if she gets pregnant, she won't be able to nurse her child, and that child will die. There's no infant formula. The ezuhi katana, what's called a katana, from 11 to 12 years old. If she's younger than that, she can't get pregnant. Or if she's older than that, if she gets pregnant, she's fine. She has normal relations and no problem. Chacham says, even a girl who's 11 years old should have normal relations and not try to destroy her husband's zera, her husband's sperm. Why? And she might get pregnant. Min hashamayim mirachmul. In heavens, they'll try to protect her. Shenema shema pesoyim Hashem. Hashem watches over people who keep mitzvahs out of with purity, basically. But what you see from here is that a woman who's a katana cannot get pregnant, and if she got pregnant, she can die. So how could you say our mission is talking about a girl who's 11 years old and got pregnant? It's impossible. According to the way we see it from the way Rav Meir says, Shemet is aber b'tamus. She can get pregnant and die. So answers the Gemara. So our mission is talking about how does she leave one husband without a get and go to another place, is b'kedushay ta'us, that the first husband, there was a whole accident. There was a conditional betrothal, and it was conditional. If there was conditional and it turns out the conditions weren't met, she could walk out of the kedushin, walk out of the marriage without a get. Rabbi Yehuda Mashmuel said the same thing. We tell a woman that if she has relations with another man and she was forced, she's permitted to her husband. If she did it willingly, she's not prohibited. She's prohibited for her husband. There's another type of woman that even if she willingly had relations with another man while she's ostensibly married to a first man, she's still permitted to go back to the first guy. That she had a mistaken marriage the first time around. And therefore, even if she had an affair, and on purpose she had an affair while she's married to the guy, if it turns out the first marriage was a kedusha by mistake, so Mishnah says, even if there's a child on her shoulder, she can just walk away from the whole thing and go back to him. So basically, that's the bottom line of our Mishnah. And all you have to walk away from this sugi is like this, that Shmuel made a statement that a kohen that doesn't know who his father is cannot serve in the Beis Hamikdash. Our Mishnah is talking about a woman who had a mistaken marriage the first time around. So she walked out without a get because she doesn't need a get. The whole thing was a mistake. And she got married to somebody else within 3 months, and both of them are kahanim. That type of person could serve in the Beis Hamikdash because it wasn't done b'derech znus. It wasn't adultery. It was an accidental marriage. So that's what our Mishnah is talking about. We go further. A guy hoya shneim kahanim. Let's do it this way. Hoya shneim kahanim. Our Mishnah said that what if the two of them were kahanim? He has two fathers, and one of them is a kohen. Both of them are kahanim. They're both his fathers. So Tanu Rabbanan. The rabbis taught. So a guy has two people who could be his father. Imagine that. A guy doesn't know his father, but it's one of two people. So the rabbis taught, you're not allowed to hit your father, right? So he hit one guy, he hit one person, and then he hit the next guy. So he definitely hit his father. The problem is when they warn him, don't hit that person, they can't for sure say, don't hit that person because he is your father and you're chayav misa for that. So it's a hasra suffix. It's a warning done in doubt. You can't. So we'll see what that halach is. Kilo zeh v'chazav v'kilo zeh. He cursed one, and then he cursed the next father. Kilo shneim b'basachas, or of course, if he cursed them both at one time, or hika shneim b'basachas, or let's say he hit them both at one time. He had his hands together and slapped them both at the same time. So then, chayav, he's chayav. And here the point is that even if he did it one after another, this Tana holds, the Tanakama holds that even if when they warn him, they can't for sure warn him that he's doing an Aveira, they can just tell him, don't hit that person because he might be your father. That's enough of a warning. Rabbi Yehuda says, no. Bavas achas, it hits them both at the same time, then chayiv. Only then you would be chayiv, because then you hit your father. And they could warn him, by doing that one action, you're automatically hitting your father. But if they do one after the other, potter, then he's potter, because Rabbi Yehuda holds if you warn them and you can't for sure warn them definitively, so then he's not liable. He does not liable for misa. Again, you hit your father or you curse at your father, you get misa. But the warning has to be definitive warning. If they don't know who his father is and they can't for sure warn him, Rabbi Yehuda holds you potter. What Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, Rabbi Yehuda oimer potter b'basachas. Here, even if you hit them both at the same time, Rabbi Yehuda says that you potter, even if you hit them both at the same time, where the warning can tell you that if you do that action, you're sure hitting your father. So first the Gemara says, what did Rabbi Yehuda say? Here it says Rabbi Yehuda says b'vachachas kayev, and there it says b'vachachas is potter. So the Gemara says, trade to know I leave it to Rabbi Yehuda. There's two opinions what Rabbi Yehuda said. Now the Gemara explains, my time of demand the potter. Why should one hold that if you hit them both at the same time, or curse them both at the same time, why are you potter? It's a good warning. Why not? It says bracha will say is about cursing the Eibishter. You're cursing your father, and it says also bracha. It's euphemism, blessing, but it means cursing the Eibishter lahabel. So by mala, when it comes to the Eibishter, the only time you chayiv is only if a person gives a blessing, or I'm saying blessing, but I mean curse. If you only curse the Eibishter without saying this avodah zarah also, only alone, she'ein ba shutavas. You didn't combine it with another deity. So it has to be alone. That's only then yechayev. Aflamata. So by cursing your parents, it has to be she'ein ba shutav. You're hitting your father, but the only person you're hitting is your father, not you hitting somebody else at the same time. That's a din that you can't hit two people at the same time and say, oh, I hit my father, therefore I'm chayiv. The ishkish hakol lekalala. And once we know the idea by klala, by cursing, we can say hakol is the same thing. And there's a hekesh between a pasuk that compares cursing your father to hitting your father. Okay, new Gemara. It says that they serve in the base of Migdash. Wait a second. But he can't partake in the gifts the Kohanim get, like the skins of the animals, the sacrificial animals that belong to the Kohen. He doesn't partake in that because they always push him away. He says, you don't even belong here. Why, if he doesn't partake in the spoils and the wages of the Beis HaMikdash, why would he want to go up to serve in the Beis HaMikdash? Why would he go up? Because he's going to say, I want to do a mitzvah. So that's not a question. What is my question is, we actually force him to go up to the Beis HaMikdash. And imagine he's a Kohen. He's a Kohen. He just doesn't know which family of Kehanim he belongs to, this one or to that one. So we force him to go up when both families go up. Let's say one goes up in January, one goes up in June. He has to go up to the Beis HaMikdash both in January, and when that other family goes up in June, he has to go up then as well. And we force him to do that. Why do we force him to do that? Because it would cause a shame to a family. If he doesn't go, people will say, oh, you belong to that family that's supposed to go up, and there must be something wrong in the whole family of Kahanim there, if they have somebody like you. So therefore, not to cause any bad name for each family, we force him to join those families, each in their respective time when they go up and serve in the Beis HaMikdash. But when it comes to splitting, the guy's working in the Beis HaMikdash, he can't walk home with any of the skins of the animal. But if both families, let's say, went up in January, let's say both families that he potentially comes from actually serve in the Beis Hamikdash at the same time, then he can partake. So the Gemara says, but there's a problem with that too, because even if you're a part of the same mishmar, which serves a week, but then there's subcategories of base avos that each subcategories serve on a different day of the week. So if there were two camps, one's in January, one's in June, they could push him off and say, you don't belong with us, our family, that's why we're not giving you the skins, you belong in the other family. But Mishma Echanami, says the Gemara, even if they go up at one particular time, each subfamily that's serving on a particular day will push him off and say, you don't really belong here. You probably belong with us who are serving on Sunday. You belong with the people who are serving on Wednesday. And therefore, you can't take in the skins of today because it's not yours. Oh, but the Mishnah says, if it turns out that the two Kahanim came from the same mishmar and also came from the same subfamily, and they all serve on that particular day, then automatically when he's serving, he could partake in the spoils, and one portion he gets from the spoils from the service of the Beis Hamikdash. So he could get the skins. Now we learn another topic. And this takes us to a good portion of the Masechta. We know that the mitzvah of Yibam should do first, right? We should do Yibam first. That's the mitzvah. That's why a Masechta is called Yevamos. It's not called Chalitza. Chalitza is that if you don't want to do Yibam, so then there's a mitzvah to do Chalitza. There's always a question, is that, let's say the woman doesn't want a Chalitza. She's an old lady, and she says, I don't want to bother with this whole thing. Do we force her to have a chalitza? She says, I don't want to get married again, so I don't care. So no, is there a mitzvah to do chalitzas, or the chalitza mitzvah is only to permit her to marry anybody who she wants? So that's a question. But anyway, the Torah gives you chalitza. Let's just review. There are three things that have to be done by chalitza. Number one, they have to read the psukim that are written in the Chumash for her, okay? Those psukim that have to be read. So we're going to... these psukim over here, right? I'm going to just back this up. These psukim over here. You have to read the psukim. And they bring him and he has to spit. The nikrosh might be Yisrael. So there's kriya, and there's also taking off the shoe, and then she has to spit in the vicinity of the yavam. So those are the three things. So the Mishnah says, mitzvahs chalitza b'shloisha deyanim. You don't have to go to a big bezdin. You go to three people, even if they're not certified judges. You go to three people, and they can do the whole, me, you, and my neighbor can do the whole chalitza for a woman. You don't have to go to a big rabbi. Now, the yavam has to wear a shoe, right? If he uses a min'ol is a type of shoe that the leather is soft, right? So then that's not good. Really, they want you to use, Chazal wanted to use a sandal where it has made of tough leather on the bottom, on the sole of the foot. So that's as we saw in the picture. Also, but if you use a min'ol, a shoe with this which has soft leather, then it's a kosher chalitza. But on pilya, let's say he was only wearing socks. Chalitzase psula, then the chalitza is pasul. Besandal sheyeshli akav kosher, and a sandal that has like a heel to it, right? That's what means kosher. It means it has to have a heel. But akav doesn't mean a heel; it means the sole. It has to have a sole on the bottom, a complete sole that covers the whole sole plus your heel. Kosher. Only then it's kosher, not b'diavad. That's the way kosher. But if it doesn't cover the whole bottom of the foot, it's pasul. Min ho'akuba ulamata chatzlitzase keshera. If the yavam had his foot amputated, then as long as he still has his knee intact and anything below, and he's wearing the shoe, then you can make a chalitza there. But min akuba ulamala. But if he's missing his knee and above, so they amputated a good portion of his leg, lo yaleinu, then he can't do chalitza. Chalitza say pesula. Chalitza is possible because she can't take off the shoe. The Torah says, what does the Torah says? The cholza. This is the key pasuk. The cholza naloi me'al ragloi, right over here. The cholza naloi me'al ragloi, right over here. Me'al ragloi. You have to take it off his foot. So if he has no foot, then you can't be mekayim that mitzvah. And what is naloi? We're seeing naloi is like a sandal in the times of Chazal. Chalza b'sandal sheinish lo, if you use a sandal that's not yours, or b'sandal shel eitz, or if it's made out of wood, it's kosher. At least it has a little bit of leather in it. Or b'shel smar b'yamin, if you're using a lefty and you put it on your right foot, b'di'evet chalitzasa kasher, the chalitza is kosher. But chalza begadol shu yachal lahalich by, the Mishnah says if you use a big shoe, but as long as he can walk on it, right? But it's not ideal. It slips off. Or the cotton, or if it's too small of a shoe, but nevertheless, shoe chayfus revlaglo, it covers most of his feet, right? So most of his feet is not sticking out of a shoe. Chalitzasi kasher, the chalitza is kosher. So there seems that there's a lot of leeway in the shoe, but yet there's a very big tradition on how to make the shoes. And therefore, all the shoes that we have usually come from the old country, Europe, and this was used for hundreds of years. They use the same shoe over and over again. Most dayanim who have in their possession this shoe don't give it up so easily. So there's a big tradition on how to make the shoe. So the first the Gemara discusses if three people if you could take any three people, right? They don't have to be judges. Why does the Mishnah say mitzvahs chalitza? You take judges. The Mishnah says they don't really have to be judges. If they don't really have to be judges, then why does the Mishnah say judges? This teaches you, because part of the chalitza is when the Yavan and Yavama are standing in front of you, the people in charge have to say to the Yavama, repeat after me. You should say, repeat after me these following words in Hebrew. And the woman repeats those words. Then they have to read something else. They should say, repeat after me, Miss Woman. And she has to repeat after them. So because they have to read Chumash, they have to know how to read. That's why we need somebody who's like Dayanim. Dayanim doesn't mean a judge, but means somebody who's literate. Tanina lahatu tana rabbanam. Our Mishnah is more explained by the Brisa. Mitzvahs chalitza b'shloisha sheyoidin lahakros kein dayanim. The people who are in charge are doing the chalitza or overseeing the chalitza is three people, but they have to be like judges. Means they have to be literate. All right, not everybody was literate, and they have to know how to properly pronounce the words. Very, very important. So the Brisa says you need three. Rabbi Yehuda b'chamisha 5. So my time at the Tanakama. Okay, so now the Gemara goes into why did the Tanakama say you need three? Now we're going into something else. So basically, you know why you need anybody. It doesn't have to be dayanim. It could be somebody who knows how to read. But there's a machloikis between Rabbi Yehuda and the Tanakama. How many people oversee the chalitza? Our Mishnah says 3, but Rabbi Yehuda says 5. My time at the Tanakama. What's the reason of the Tanakama? Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, Zakanim. You have to go to the Zakanim, right? Be'ein bezin shakel masifin alein echad arei kan shloisha. So let's bring the psukim up so it's very clear. It says you go to the Zakanim. So Zakanim means two people, right? Two people. And since you can't have a bezdin shakel, you can't have a even number of people on a bezdin, so that's why you add a num, and so it means 3. But then the Rav Yehuda can say, but it says the word zikne again over here in Pasuk Ches, the korelai zikne here. So zikne over here also means 2. So that's what the Mishnah says. Rabbi Yehuda I'm a zikne shtayim, zikanim shnayim, ein bezin shakel masifin lein oidechad harekan hey. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, you need 5 because it says twice the word zikanim. So now the Gemara says, "V'tanakanim hay zikne may aved lei." What did they do with the second zikne? They don't use it to teach you have to add more people to the group. So what do they use with the word zikne? That the Torah is trying to tell you is that you don't need really judges. Take any old man and you can put him up as the one in charge of the chalitza. Rabbi Yehuda, how do you know? How does Rabbi Yehuda know that you don't need a judge? You can use any person to oversee the chalitza. He learns it out from the pasuk le'ene that they have to view it. Right, the people on the chalitza have to see the action. The Amamar le'ene prat l'sumen. A blind person le'elenu cannot be in charge of overseeing the chalitza. Now, that's what the Torah says. Le'ene. So now that we know le'ene tells you that you exclude a blind person. From that we can deduce that you didn't need a bezdin, you didn't need a judge. Because the Isa Kadaita Sanhedrin being in, because if you thought that you need somebody, a bona fide judge, so Lama Lila Mu'ute Suman, why do you have to have an exclusion of a blind judge? Judges by definition cannot be blind. The Tana Rabbi Yosef, Kishem Shebes the Menukim B'Tzedek, in order to be a judge, you have to be really clean and righteous. Kach Bez the Menukim Mikalmum. They have to be clean from any blemish. And therefore, the fact that the Torah says that we don't want any of the guys in charge of chalitza to be blind, it must be that chalitza is done by somebody who's not a judge. Because if it was done by a judge, I don't need that miyut, because I know automatically that a judge cannot be blind. From another pasuk. So from that pasuk, we know that that's how Rabbi Yehuda knows that you don't need judges. You can use anybody. How do you know a judge needs to be? We go to Kuf Aleph on the base. The Torah says that a judge has to be beautiful with no blemish. The idach. What do Rabbanan do with the word le'ene? Ahu le'ene my ovedle. Ahu, the Rabbanan use it like the Rava. The Amarava. The Amarava. Rava said tzricha liyanu mechse ruke de konofik mepima de yavama. Here's another halacha. Le'ene means it's not enough to know that the woman spit in front of the yavam. They have to actually see the spit leaving her mouth. That's what le'ene means. The ksiv, le'ene has a kainim, the yarka. Right in front of the eyes of this kainim, the yarka, we have to see the spit leaving the ground. They have to actually see the whole motion from her mouth. So they move up and close to her. But doesn't Rabbi Yehuda also need it like Rava said? So he also says, you're right, I need it the way Rava teaches you, the Eine teaches you that you need to see the spit. So how does he know that you can use any Jew to be as part of the overseer of the Kalitza? Yisrael. Yisrael Kaldu. The Torah says that you can use any Yisrael. It says, the Nikra, L'Hakam L'Shem L'Hakam Shem Achav Bi Yisrael. L'Hakam Shem Achav Bi Yisrael amongst these Jewish judges. So any Jew can be a judge, even if you're not a certified judge. So the Idach, why does the Rabbanan say that learn it from there? Ha Yisrael my Avalei. What do they do with their Yisrael? The Bailei L'Ketutan Reb Shmuel by Yehuda Yisrael. The Bezdin Shel Yisrael V'Lei Bebezdin Shel Gerim. That only a Jewish guy could be a part of the judge. Only a Jew could oversee a chalitza, not a ger. Although we don't need a judge, it cannot be somebody who's a ger. The idach. Where does Rabbi Yehuda know you don't need a ger? It says another time the word Yisrael. Where does it say another time the word Yisrael? The Nikra Shmoy be Yisrael. So we know that a ger can't be it. The idach. What do they do with that one? Rabbi Yehuda says, Pam achas hayoniyesh lefnei Rab Tarfon uva yavama lachloitz va'amar lanu anu kilchem chalutz hana'al. The nikru, that means, here's another halacha, very important halacha. After she does this whole process, the people in the crowd have to announce Beis Chalutz Hana'al. This is the house where she took off the shoe. So, and this is the house that this person got his shoe taken off. You hear this? The guy who did not want to do the yavam, we almost want to embarrass him by saying, how could you not want to be miyabin this woman? We're going to announce to everybody that you're the guy that got his shoe taken off. So that's what you learn from the Yisrael, that you have to publicize it. So how does Rabbi Yehuda know that? The idach, the nikra nachri. He says from the word the nikra alone, publicizing it, you don't need Yisrael. So basically, you have a whole cheshbon of what each pasuk is needed to the other person. But the bottom line is that Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion you need 5, and the Chachamim say we need 3. But if you would darshan zikne and v'kare, every time you're going to say a plural in that parsha, you're going to add another people. So it says v'karu, shnayim, add another 2. The Dibru, they speak shnayim. So hachinami, so if you're going to keep adding that, Rabbi Yehuda, hare kan tisha, you need 9. The Rabbanan, hare kan shiva, you need 7. Because you have another 2 times where the pasuk adds the word plural. And so we can say, if you're in that mode over there, anytime it's adding a plural, just add another number to the people overseeing the chalitza. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, you would probably need 7. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you would need 9. According to Rabbanan, you need 7. Answers the Gemara, no. Here's important halacha also regarding chalitza. If the people overseeing the chalitza see that this is not going to be a shidduch, they have to convince them not to do yibim. The shlucham, they have to make the announcement or promote it, not their messengers. They have to talk to the yavim by themselves. The dibru elav, and they have to speak to him. Melame, this teaches you shemasian loy eitza ha'egenes. They give him an appropriate advice. Loy shim hu hayu yeled. Let's say the yavam was a young kid. He's a Canaan. She's an older woman. She's an older woman, and she's falling to yibim to this young kid. Who's zaken, or he's an older guy, and she's young. So it's not like Hollywood where these marriages could work. They tell him, why are you marrying a young girl? Why are you marrying an old woman? Don't do that. Marry somebody in your age group. And don't bring arguments in your house. So that's what they learned from those extra words of a dibru, means that they have to give them good advice. So we had 2 machlokes in. Let's finish over here. Do you need 3 or do you need 5? In our mission, it says 3, but we saw an opinion in the Brisa of Rabbi Yehuda who says you need 5. Amar Nachman, halacha, the halacha is chalitza b'shloisha, the halacha is that chalitza is done with 3. Amar le Rav Nachman, ihachi miyan nami, the tnan, but miyan also should be done with 3. Hamiyan v'chalitza b'shloisha. That mian is also done with 3. What time we learn to write a mian beishamai armen bezdem mumchen, besil armen bebezdem shloi bebezdem. Elevated minim should sorghum shloisha. Okay, so Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel says by a mian. In other words, we know what a mian is, right? When the girl walks away from the marriage, how many people need to see the mian? So Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel both agree that you need 3. The question is, do you need expert bezdin? But Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon, machshirim bishnayim. So in front of 2 people, a miyun is good. But Rabbi Yossi bar Manyuni, Rabbi Nachman halacha ka'oiseh hazug, that the halacha is like that pair that says that you need that 2 is enough. So if you're always going on a stam mishnah, then an anonymous mishnah that's the halacha. Then how come we paskin like Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Yossi, that 2 is enough for miyan, but we have a stam mishnah, a regular mishnah that says hamiyan b'chalitza b'shleisha. Miyan is with 3. So answers the Gemara. So what the Gemara is trying to say over here is that really we should paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda seems to have more psukim, and the psukim make a lot of sense according to Rabbi Yehuda. So what we're trying to say is that you should really need 5. Answers the Gemara. Hasam chad stama. There's one stam mishnah that says that you need mian is with 3, v'hocha trei stama. Here we have 2 anonymous mishnahs that say that chalitza is with 3. Therefore, by chalitza we paskin 3. By mian we will go not paskin like the stam mishnah, because there's only one stam mishnah. Hasanami trei stamininu. The Gemara says by mian there's another anonymous mishnah that says that mian should be done with 3. It's not mian ishachalza b'fanav yisa'enav neishu bebezdin. So we see there's another mishnah that seems to imply that mian is done in front of a bezdin of 3. So the Gemara says, Alahasam trei stami, hachet plus stami. By chalitza, you have 3 stam mishnahs that say chalitza is done with 3. By mian, you have only 2 stam mishnahs that say mian is done with 3. That's why we paskin mian is done with 2. So the Gemara says this whole thing makes no sense. Once you have one stam mishnah that tells you then you should always go like the Stam Mishnah. Nichte, hastama, b'hastama. Doesn't matter. You have one, it's a Stam Mishnah, an anonymous Mishnah. And if it's an anonymous Mishnah, that means Rabbeinu HaKadosh, who wrote the Mishnah, said this is the right way to paskin. Mali chad stam or mali trei stam. Or mali trosotram. Who cares if you have 2 Stam Mishnahs or 3 Stam Mishnahs? You should always paskin by mi'un. You need 3. Answers the Gemara, Elo Amar Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, Hoyo Stam b'mokam achloikis. There really is, what the Gemara is going to say is that even Rabbi Yehuda, who said you need 5, he changed his mind. Then there is no machlokes by miyun, by chalitza. Now we learned in the Mishnah, Smicha Zakech ve'egla rufa b'shloisha de Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer b'chamisha. Rabbi Yehuda says that Smicha Zakenim and egla rufa are with 5, and Rabbi Yosi says with 3. When the Mishnah says that chalitza va'miyunin is b'shloisha, chalitza and miyun is with 3, and Rabbi Yehuda is quiet. Rabbi Yehuda had the opinion that chalitza is also with 5, but he doesn't say anything over here. So we see from here that Rabbi Yehuda regretted what he said and changed his mind, and that's why we paskin chalitza is with 3, not with 5. If you bear me one more minute, and we'll finish to the end of the page because it's a very important halacha. Although we're saying over here that chalitza is done with 3. Where we actually want 5 people at the meeting. Why? Because we needed to make a big publication that this woman is now permitted to get married again, and therefore, presume we actually have 5 people at the thing. All right, you know what? We'll stop over here, Amarava. But that's what the Gemara is going to say right now. That even though we paskin that there's 3, we want everybody to know that she's a chalutza. So first of all, she shouldn't marry a kohen, but more importantly, is that people should know that she's available and that she should find a shidduch after going through this process of chalitza. So that's, in order for chesed for her. So it's interesting that we actually have 5.